We interrupt your regularly scheduled brainwashing with a dose of reality from CNS Dispatch. CNS. Citizens, not servants.
Welcome, my name is Preston, and you're watching another episode of CNS Dispatch, Citizens, Not Servants. Because we're Americans, we need to be reminded that our country was founded by people who fought off the chains of the crown. And now we have a fight of our own, and that is to throw off the chains of fear and propaganda. And I'm here to add to that conversation, to wake the lions. I watched a video today by a lady named Chris Ann Hall. It's Chris Ann with a K, K-R-I-S-A-N-N-E Hall. If you haven't heard of her, don't know of her, she has a YouTube channel. She's also an author. She flies all over doing speeches. She's a very staunch constitutionalist. She's liberty-minded. She believes in you live your life and I'll live mine. And watching her video today, this is the video that just came out yesterday on the 30th. She said something that struck a nerve with me, and I'm going to adapt that mindset. No more left and right, Republican, Democrat, liberal, progressive, conservative is going to come from me. I've long stated that the two-party system that we have, the Democrat, Republican parties, are nothing but two heads from a hydra. They are not separated when it comes to their votes in Congress. They're separated when it comes to their mouthpieces and their speeches and when they're trying to get your vote. But when brass tacks comes due, they're all the same people. They're in it for themselves, and they're in it to pocket or line their own pockets. So from now on, I'm going to refer to Democrats and Republicans as statists, because it's exactly what those political parties are. They're for the state, which is also for themselves. So Democrats, Republicans, you're statists. Constitutionalists is now going to be the term used for people like myself that are very conservative-minded, very libertarian-minded. So I'm now going to refer to that political ideology as constitutionalists. And the liberal progressives, you're now going to be labeled as Marxists, because that's exactly what you are. You are beyond statists. So we have Antifa people that rally against the state, but what state are they trying to replace it with? They're trying to replace it with a Marxist socialist state. So they are beyond the Democrat Republicans, now known as statists. They are far beyond that. They are into Marxism. So from now on, they're now going to be referred to as Marxists. I give a thanks and a hat tip to Chris Ann Hall from that. I'm going to go with it. So, in the news, Afghanistan. So, we have been told by President Biden himself and his mouthpiece, the White House spokesperson, Psaki, that they denied flat out that we were going to leave Americans stranded. They even objected to that word, stranded, in Afghanistan. So I want to bring your attention back. This was just a couple days ago to this wonderful, wonderful lady. Listen to what she's got to say.
But does the president have a sense that most of the criticism is not of leaving Afghanistan, it's the way that he has ordered it to happen by pulling the troops before getting these Americans who are now stranded? Does he have a sense of that?
First of all, I think it's irresponsible to say Americans are stranded. They are not. We are committed to bringing Americans who want to come home. We are in touch with them via phone, via text, via email, via any way that we can possibly reach Americans to get them home if they want.
So she objects to the word stranded. She objects to this reporter. She goes on and dresses this guy down. But you heard it from her mouth. They're not going to leave him stranded. They are in touch with him, and they're going to get him out. That's what they're going to do, right? So I want to direct your attention to something that, I don't know, we'll call it the truth. So this is from the Epic Times. Yes, you have to have a subscription to read their papers. You can read for free. but I strongly advise you, if you don't subscribe to them, to do it. They put out really good information. This came out August the 30th, right here, August the 30th. Hundreds of Americans still in Afghanistan after the last military flight from CENTCOM. CENTCOM stands for Central Command. This is the commanding branch, commanding officers in charge of that region, the Central Region. The Pentagon has admitted that hundreds, quote unquote, of Americans seeking evacuation have been left in Afghanistan after the last U.S. military plane departed Afghan's Hamid Karzai International Airport for a few hours before dawn. So then we'll go to another article by the same organization, the Epoch Times, dated August the 31st, 2021. Oh, look, the Pentagon acknowledges Americans stranded in Afghanistan after pullout. Pentagon spokesman John Kirby needs to resign. On Tuesday, acknowledged that Americans were stranded in Afghanistan despite earlier comments that we just heard a little while ago to the contrary made by White House officials, namely Jen Psaki. He said it's not clear how many remain. So, 2 days ago, Psaki goes into a press conference and berates a reporter for daring to ask a question about the Americans being stranded. She comes out to redress and belittle this reporter, saying, we're not going to do it. We're in touch with them. We're getting them out. And then it comes out they're stranded. A day later. So they lied. We left Americans behind. Exactly like many of us who've been paying attention and know what's going on and don't listen to the propaganda coming from our mainstream media have said was happening. So what does the White House pivot to? Well, of course, they pivot to that this operation is going to go down in history as one of the largest airlift operations in U.S. history. And then they pivot to masks and they pivot to vaccines and the $3.5 trillion spending bill. And the lapdog media, now known as the watchdog media, because they're Biden's bodyguards. They're not going to let anything bad happen to Biden. Can't happen, right? So what else have we learned? Well, there's this article that came out from, of all sources, the Washington Compost, otherwise known as the Washington Post. So in this article, and you have to scroll down, I'm going to show you. It's titled, The Surprise, Panic, and Fateful Choices, The Day America Lost Its Longest War. So this came out August the 28th at 3:53 p.m. Didn't hear much about this one, did anybody? So in Kabul, on the day that Afghanistan's capital fell to Taliban, delivering the definitive verdict on the war that had lumbered on ambiguously for 20 years, one of the city's top security officials woke up preparing for battle. It goes on and on and on, but I want you to pay attention to a date. August the 15th. As dawn broke over the mystery mountains that ring the city on August 15th, Kabul had suddenly become an island. The Taliban had taken over Jalalabad at that point, taken over almost all of Afghanistan. This article goes on, talks about the president who took the money and ran, leaving the security forces high and dry. And once they realized that their president, their commander-in-chief, bailed on them, they fucking bailed. Can't say that I blame them totally. But when Ghani took off, he didn't tell anybody. He just took off. He grabbed his staff and he's gone. So the article goes on further. You can read this. I don't like reading verbatim stuff, especially this is a very long article. It talks about the fall of Afghanistan. And it goes on and on. But the key takeaways that come into this way down here towards the bottom. Reminds you, this is on August the 15th. General McKenzie, the commander of U.S. Central Command, spoke with Abdul Ghani Baradar, the head of Taliban's political wing. He says, we have a problem, or that's what the Taliban guy said. We have two options to deal with. You, the United States military, take responsibility for securing Kabul, or you have to allow us to do it. So right here, it's now public knowledge that the leader of the Taliban told the U.S., hey, you take control of Kabul, or you're going to make us do it, or allow us to do it. We had the option on August the 15th to take control of Kabul. August the 15th, the CENTCOM commander met with the political leader dude of the Taliban, and the Taliban offered him, you can read it right here. We have a problem, Baradar said. According to the U.S. official, we have two options to deal with. You, the United States military, take responsibility for securing Kabul, or you have to allow us to do it. We could have right then, right there on the spot, taken control of Kabul. The Taliban would have allegedly stayed outside of the perimeter of the city, which they already had surrounded. That would have allowed us plenty of time to get our people out. Not just the American citizens primarily, but the allies that helped us, the interpreters that helped us, those and their family, the American contractors that were there working. We could have taken control of the city and got our people out. And then once that happened, we could have fallen back to the airport, and the Taliban would have came in and controlled Kabul, and then we could have finished our military exfil from that country. Throughout the day, Biden had remained resolute in his decision to withdraw all American troops from Afghanistan. The collapse of the Afghanistan government hadn't changed his mind. McKinsey, aware of these orders, told Baradar that the U.S. mission was only to evacuate American citizens, Afghan allies, and others at risk. The United States, he told Baradar, needed the airport to do that. On the spot, an understanding was reached. According to two other U.S. officials, the United States could have the airport until August the 31st, but the Taliban would control the city. So we failed. Our political machine failed. We could have controlled the city and gotten our people out. But instead, we were lied to from our administration. We were lied to from our political generals in uniform only. We were lied to by the White House spokesperson about people being stranded. We were lied to that we didn't have, we can only take the airport. No, we could have taken the whole fucking city and got our people out. Well, we were lied to. They struck the deal. We could have controlled the city, but instead they controlled the airport. And then they lied about the whole thing. They lied about this being Trump's plan. You read it right here. The Washington Post is in no stretch of the imagination anywhere right of center. They're not even center. They're another mouthpiece like the New York Times for the left. And here they are in black and white in print telling us that this is a deal this administration struck. This was not a Trump plan. But that's what other people are telling us, that this was, they tried to pivot to that. Oh, this is Trump, blame everything on Trump, right? Just like they did everything else. But this is not Trump's plan. This was the deal struck by the Biden administration and the Biden military chain of command. It's right there for you to read. But no, what are they going to do? They're not going to come out and say that, this was a victory because it was the biggest airlift in U.S. history. Biden just executed, and Biden and his administration did a Herculean effort to get to get 80 whatever thousand people out. But then you also have people like Glenn Beck who got out 5,000 people. You have veterans. It was called the Operation Pineapple Express that literally went to Afghanistan on their own, went out outside the wire and got over 600 or some odd people rescued, snuck them through Taliban checkpoints, snuck them onto the airport. Luckily, there were some military members that disobeyed their chain of command, and kudos to them for doing it, and helped get those people onto the airport and onto flights and get them to safety. But this administration is going to try to claim a fucking victory. Mark my words, on September the 11th, this is all you're going to hear about from the Biden administration about how this was a win. The airlift part. And they're going to blame Trump when right here you have the proof to show this was their fucking plan. I digress. In other news, this was a wonderful little tidbit of information I came across today. How about this one? A Gold Star mother was locked out of Facebook account after sharing her story on meeting President Biden. Oh yeah, and by the way, it wasn't just her Facebook account. It was her Instagram account too. So in the article, this is from Becker News, came out today, August the 31st. The grieving mother of fallen Marine Lance Corporal Kareem no, by no means try to butcher this name, but it's Nico, met with President Joe Biden on Sunday at the dignified transfer ceremony at Dover Air Force Base. Oh, yeah, dignified. Over 6 times Biden did this. As the flag-draped caskets were being rolled out of the airplane, Biden did this. Your president. Mother, Shauna Chappell, took to social media to share her agonizing story of meeting the president, which didn't sit well with the Facebook and Instagram censors. She was locked out of her social media accounts for what she had to say about the president. So basically, if you want to read it, it's right here. This message is for you. This is her post from the Gold Star mother to President Joe Biden. This message is for you. I know my face is etched into your brain. I was able to look you straight in the eyes yesterday and have words with you. After I lay my son to rest, you will be seeing from me again. Remember, I am the one who stood 5 inches from your face and was letting you know I would never get a hug my son again, hear his laugh, and then you tried to interrupt me to give me your own sob story, and I had to tell you this isn't about you, so don't make it about you. You then said you just wanted me to know that you know how I feel, and I let you know that you don't know how I feel, and you don't have the right to tell me how I feel, and etc. So this lady, applause to her, 5 inches from the president's face, chewed his ass out, and she goes into it and basically said, President, you're sitting in President Trump's seat, more or less. So the article goes on to quote the rest of her story. But on Monday, on Monday, 2 Gold Star families from the 13 that were killed in Afghanistan also backed up her story and said the exact same thing about President Biden checking his watch. One father said over 4 times. Another father said that every time a casket was rolled out of the plane, President Biden checked his watch at the dignified transfer ceremony. Checked his watch. So, we have that from the Biden administration. From Biden himself. Apparently, whatever was on his watch was more important than showing respect to the fallen members of our military that had fallen due to his ignorance, his incompetence, and his fecklessness. I digress. In other news, we have an article from the Gateway Pundit. It came out August the 30th. COVID vaccines less effective at preventing hospitalizations, the CDC says. So I've been on this and on this and on this since the start. The vaccines efficacy wanes after 6 months. There's been multiple studies in Israel, in Germany, in Iceland, UK, US, France, and a few other countries where they're all coming to the same conclusion. Those that were vaccinated early, like the first people vaccinated in like December 2020, January 21, February 21, in that time frame, they're now at that 6-month window or beyond, and they're starting to get sick. So these studies are showing that the efficacy of the vaccines wane after 6 months. That's not me saying that. That's the study saying that. And here's an article from the Gateway Pundit. The CDC on Monday came out and said COVID vaccines are less effective at preventing hospitalizations, particularly for people over 75. So they basically re-reported what ABC reported. The COVID vaccine's ability to keep people out of hospital appears to be dropping slightly, particularly for those 75 and older. So basically, the reported efficacy was of 90-something%. Now they're saying, oh, it's down to 75% now. How about those apples? How about that? That sounds a lot like I've been saying. So, what does the NIH and the FDA do? Oh, well, let's go take a look. NIH launches a study of extra COVID-19 vaccine dose in people with autoimmune disease. Not another dose. They're talking about increasing the dosage to more stuff going into people's bodies that already have an autoimmune deficiency. The vaccines are waning after 6 months. The antibodies generated, and this is not me speaking, this is from the studies. The antibodies are showing, or the studies are showing that the antibodies after 6 months are basically useless in preventing the vaccinated person from catching COVID. Whereas antibodies from people that caught COVID naturally are still good a year and a half after contracting COVID. But all we hear about is get a vaccine, get a vaccine, get a vaccine. And now the FDA is also pushing out the whole booster thing. Apparently, allegedly, coming out in September, they're going to have a booster for people that are 8 months from their second dose of the Moderna or the Pfizer vaccine. And now they're talking about increasing the actual dosage to autoimmune people. This is your government. I don't claim them. I didn't vote for none of these motherfuckers. Not my government. And again, if you individually want to get the vaccine because you think it's the best thing for you to do for you and your health or you and your family's health, go get the vaccine. Nobody is preventing you from doing so. Nobody is mandating that you cannot do it. Go get it if that's your choice. If you feel that's the right thing to do for your family, go do it. However, when you're mandating or pushing for mandates, supporting mandates, advocating for mandates to get people vaccinated, when their own CDC is experimenting now with increasing the actual dosage of a still experimental vaccine, the licensed vaccine has not been manufactured, distributed, or it doesn't exist at this point in time. The ones that are still, the only thing that are on market right now are the experimental vaccines that are only authorized under the emergency use authorization. So let's get that straight. But they're still experimenting with the dosage when it comes to people with an autoimmune disease. But you want to mandate this. There's no long-term studies. There's no way of knowing yet. This is not a typical old school vaccine. This is a brand new experimental vaccine, quote, vaccine, otherwise known as the mRNA therapy. But you want to mandate, for whatever reason, that we get it. And I asked this question many times. Many people have asked this question 1,000 times. If you believe in the vaccine and you get the vaccine and you believe in masks and you wear your mask and you believe in social distancing and you keep 6 foot away from everybody, you wear your mask in your car when you're driving down the road by yourself, you don't, you stay 6 feet away from the family in your house and wear your mask in your house, whatever, you're doing you, right? What threat is the person who's not vaccinated to you or people like you? If the vaccines work as you believe they do, what threat do we pose to you? None. The only threat we pose is to other people that have chosen the same way to not get the vaccine. There are studies and documented records of people that are still hospitalized with COVID that are fully vaccinated. Oh, it's the Delta variant. Do you even know how to test for Delta variant, by the way? The only way to definitively prove whether somebody has COVID-19, so SARS-CoV-2, or the Delta variant is through a genome sequencing test of your sample. So they have to take a sample, put it in a petri dish, whatever, look at it, and go through the RNA to verify. PCR tests don't do it. Oh, and by the way, PCRs aren't being used by the CDC any longer because they're not reliable. Antigen tests don't do it, and antibody tests don't do it. They cannot delineate from strands. So this whole breakthrough thing, in the last study I saw, and I'll have to find this again, the last study I saw, roughly 20% of samples they're the only one, only 20% of samples are being genome sequenced to prove whether the variant or the variant Delta, or what is it, Lambda that's come out now, or the original SARS-CoV-2. So don't tell me that, the breakthrough is Delta. It's not just Delta. But you want to mandate. us that know how to research and know our own bodies and have sovereignty over our own selves. We have the right to be secure in our persons and papers. That is a fundamental right of United States citizens. You cannot mandate this on us. You can try. It's not going to work the way you think it will. So in closing, this has been a report from CNS Dispatch, where we are citizens, not servants. My name is Preston, and I'm here to awaken the masses. Are you awake yet?
This has been a dose of reality from CNS Dispatch. Citizens, not servants. We now return you to your involuntary mental programming.